People often believe power belongs only to the biggest and loudest. But this story will quietly prove how a small life can change a giant fate. Stay with me for the next few minutes, because what happens in a dusty village will challenge how you see strength forever. In a remote farming village near the borderlands of South Asia, life moves slowly under the sun and banyan trees. The villagers were simple people, farmers and potters, who believed respect followed size, wealth, and visible power. Among their cattle paths lived an elephant named Raja, owned by a wealthy trader from the nearby town. Raja was huge, proud, and careless, and he walked through fields as if the land belonged only to him. Wherever he passed, crops bent, fences broke, and fear followed his shadow. The villagers complained quietly, but no one dared to challenge the trader or his mighty elephant. Near the same fields lived a colony of ants beneath an old neem tree. They were tiny, ignored, and crushed without notice by careless feet. One afternoon, Raja wandered off his path and stopped near the neem tree to rest. As he leaned against the trunk, his heavy feet destroyed the ant tunnels without a second thought. The ants screamed in pain and panic, watching their homes collapse. Raja laughed softly, amused that something so small could suffer because of him. That moment, the ants learned a painful lesson about power and injustice. Before the story goes further, if you enjoy meaningful stories that change how you think, gently tap like and subscribe to MindShift Tales so you never miss such lessons. The ants gathered that night, led by an older ant known for wisdom rather than strength. He reminded them that size does not decide courage, and silence does not mean weakness. The ants decided they would not attack in anger, but act with patience and unity. The next morning, Raja returned to the fields, confident and unaware. As he drank water near the village well, a few ants climbed quietly onto his feet. Raja felt nothing and continued his careless march. Slowly, more ants joined, crawling upward with purpose. When the ants reached sensitive areas, they bit together at the same time. Raja screamed in shock and pain, shaking his legs wildly. He ran across the fields, damaging more crops as fear replaced pride. The villagers watched in disbelief as the mighty elephant lost control. Raja finally collapsed near the neem tree, exhausted and confused. The ants did not celebrate or mock him. Instead, their leader spoke calmly, explaining why they acted. He told Raja that power without kindness becomes cruelty. Raja listened for the first time, humbled by voices he once ignored. The trader arrived, angry at first, but shocked by what he saw. The villagers gathered courage and shared years of silent suffering. Faced with truth, the trader realized his wealth could not buy respect. He'd promised to guide Raja with care and responsibility. From that day, Raja walked only on marked paths. He helped villagers carry wood and water instead of destroying fields. The ants rebuilt their homes peacefully under the neem tree. Seasons changed, and harmony slowly returned to the village. Children told stories about the day a giant learned from the smallest. Elders reminded everyone that unity makes the weak powerful. Travelers passing through heard the tale and shared it further. This village, once fearful, became known for wisdom rather than wealth. The ants never sought fame, only fairness. Raja never forgot the pain that taught him empathy. Time proved that true strength listens before it acts. If you feel this story reflects something in your own life, take a moment to think about where kindness can replace force. Stories like this are why MindShift Tales exists, to remind us that change often begins quietly. As days pass, the villagers noticed how respect grew naturally when fear disappeared. Even disagreements were solved through conversation instead of power. The neem tree stood taller, sheltering ants, birds, and tired travelers. Roger often rested there, careful with every step. He had learned that every life under his feet mattered. The ants learned that patience and unity can move even mountains of flesh. Festivals returned, and laughter filled the dusty lanes again. Farmers saw better harvests because fields stayed protected. The trader earned trust instead of resentment. One small act of courage had reshaped an entire community. This is how unseen strength rewrites destiny. As you reach this part of the story, ask yourself who you might be underestimating. Sometimes the smallest voice carries the biggest truth. If this lesson touched your heart, share this story with someone who needs it today. Drop a comment about what this story reminded you of, because your thoughts matter here. Engagement like comments and shares help meaningful stories travel further. The villagers believed stories live longer when spoken together. Roger believed humility was heavier than pride. The ants believed courage grows when fear is faced. Years later, the neem tree still stood as a silent witness. New generations learn the story not from books, but from living example. No one in the village ever underestimated the small again. Strength was measured by fairness, not force. The land felt lighter, as if relieved of old burdens. Even the wind seemed kinder through the fields. The ants continued their work, unnoticed but respected. Roger aged gracefully, gentle and careful. The trader became a protector rather than a ruler. Visitors felt peace without knowing why. All because small voices refused to stay silent. Stories like this remind us that power is a responsibility. They teach us to pause before we step forward. In a world that celebrates giants, remember the ants. Remember that unity can shake even the strongest ground. This village never needed walls or weapons after that day. It needed understanding, and it found it. As this story ends, let its lesson walk with you. Never underestimate the small, because they often carry the greatest change. Thank you for listening and being part of this journey. Stay connected with MindShift Tales for more stories that shift how you see life. Until the next story, walk gently, because you never know who is watching. Your kindness today might become someone else's strength tomorrow. And that is how a tiny ant taught an elephant and a village the meaning of true power.